to their back button, you know, it'll pop up and it'll be like, wait, sign up for my newsletter.
Oh,
so mail.
It's like a pink, or what do they call it?
I'm sorry?
Thank you all for joining. Hey, Zakia.
Yeah.
This is Yusuf. Alright, this is Yusuf. This is an event for WordPress Meetup, and the topic is the WordPress development tools for 2016. It's a live event. Check it out.
Puts the little forms.
Good to go.
We're good to go.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so this workshop is going to be, we're going to go through some tools that will help you be a better developer in 2016. And these are all tools that I use not only for my personal projects but for my professional projects. And I think, to me, they're the best tools, and I want to share those tools with other people so that they can take their development to the next level. So I'm going to try to go through some of these things as in-depth as I can without actually, we're not going to dig into any code. We may look at a few examples, pull up an inspector and look at a little bit of code, but we won't actually be doing any coding. So for the wonderful Periscope folks, if you guys want to follow along, my website is wpdevsolutions.com. And the most recent article that I've written is the top 6 WordPress development tools for 2016. So if you guys want to follow along, just go to that link and let's get started. So the first, howdy.
Hey, what's going on, Jay? Yeah, hey, how you doing?
So the first tool that I want to mention is Cloud9. And Cloud9 is an IDE, which is basically a fancy way of talking about a text editor that has a lot of enhanced features. So if you want to follow along with me, let's click and open this up. Now, what's different about Cloud9 versus any other text editor that you might use? You may open up Text Edit on your Mac. You may have another just regular text pad that you use. Some of you may be familiar with Sublime Text or Coda. Then there's some other ones that are a little bit more advanced, like NetBeans or PHP Storm. Those are all really awesome tools, but those tools are all on your computer. So if any of you have ever developed locally, you set up a machine on your computer and you run your website there. And then if you are collaborating with anyone else, then you essentially have to version control your website. So you'll upload your files into a Git repository, and those files will be stored there. And then if someone else is working with you on that project, then they can log on to that Git repository, pull down the code, and work on it as well. But you can see how that may be kind of difficult at times, because you both may have pulled down the most recent branch and are working on it, but then if you upload them back, you may overwrite one another. And there's a lot of ways you can get around that with Git. But what I really like about this solution is, instead of working locally on your computer, you can actually work on their servers. So with the free account, you can have unlimited public servers to quickly upload your files to. Let me log into my account, that way you can see a little bit. So I'm going to sign in. Let me cycle through my 50 passwords. Okay. So once you sign up for an account, this is essentially the dashboard. And each one of these, Angular API, PC Drill, ShePraise, each one of these is a website. So it's a little piece of a server that you get to use. So when I open this up, let's open up this site. So when I open up WP Dev Solutions, which I actually built my website using Cloud9. So as you're on wpdevsolutions.com, it was built on this platform.
Wait, take me back. I'm a little bit lost here.
Okay, let's go back.
The reason for having this unlimited service, you know, an unlimited number of essentially virtual hosts,
Correct.
is the advantage is what? You can do a lot of testing.
Well, the advantage is that you can work with multiple people at the same time without messing up code. So let me go over on the side here. You see this collaborate?
You can collaborate with other developers.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So-
was confirm what he's talking. Okay, gotcha.
So I can share this with as many other members who have Cloud9 accounts. And then we can speak with one another, and I can actually see which file he or she is in, and I can go into that file, I can watch him code, we can be coding within the same window. It's a really easy way for us to develop together without overriding ourselves.
Right. You can argue about life and scope and lifetime of variables and all that stuff.
Without
Exactly.
messing up with calls on the original.
Exactly. So at the place that I work, hi there.
Sorry.
No worries. No.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
Traffic's
That's all
all
I
good.
was getting.
I work for Anderson Marketing Group, and we have a team of developers, and I have to be able to collaborate with all of them on multiple projects. So this is essential for us so that we're not constantly having to pull things down from Git, work on them, push them up, make sure we're not all messing each other up. But even if we're not talking about collaboration, this tool is kind of like it allows you to test on a live server. This is a server that's actually out in the web. Now, I mentioned that with the free account, you have unlimited public accounts, which means that anyone who has a Cloud9 account can essentially go into your code and look around. I don't think they can edit it, but they can see everything. So it's almost like if you were to go to GitHub, you can go and see everyone's code and pull it down and mess with it. I don't think you can pull it down. I may be wrong, but you can mess around with it and look around. So if there's a project that you don't want people to see or find, then you need to purchase a pro account, and there's a lot of other benefits to having a pro account as well, and it's not too terribly expensive to have one.
Was this only to develop for WordPress and PHP, or can you actually use any other language?
You can use other languages. Let's go back.
Just a real quick, the Wi-Fi is WorkPlus member, okay, and the password is my office, all lowercase.
The password is what?
My office.
My office.
So if we create a new workspace, we give it a name, a little description if we want. We can decide if we want it to be public or private. Of course, private is only for paid memberships. Or I think the free account will give you maybe like 5 private or some limited number like that. But then if we come down to a template, you can see we can customize it. We can have a regular HTML, a Node, Meteor, PHP, Django, Rails, C++, and then of course the one-click WordPress install, which that is so easy to come in here. I'm just gonna create a new workspace. I'm gonna give it a name. I'm gonna say I want a WordPress installation, and it puts it all up. It's done. So that's one really awesome benefit of getting quickly started. That's, there's always starting a new project and you have all these things that you need to get done just to even start coding. And this really helps kind of bounce you right into that development process.
When you pick up WordPress, WordPress template, does it also allow you to select a theme from start, or you have to?
It does give you the base themes like 2015, 2014. And once you get inside of the dashboard, it's everything that you normally see in a code editor. So, you know, here's your file structure. Here is all of the files that I have open and that I'm working on. And then, of course, you have your command line right here.
And how many people can collaborate together?
As far as I know, unlimited. You know, I don't know about with the free account, but as many as you need.
And is the editor pretty good?
Yeah, they have a lot of really awesome like short tabs where you can write shorthand and then push tab and it'll actually write out things. Oh, thank you.
Oh, it's got completion. It's got
Correct.
token function completion.
Yeah, and they're constantly working on the different types of syntax, you know, highlighting and all that kind of stuff. They are aware that they have a lot of WordPress users, so they're always trying to highlight that kind of stuff. And they're working on, you know, including more PHP quick functions, and hopefully they'll start putting in some WordPress functions as well. But it's just I mean, I use it every single day. I use it on every single one of my projects. It's so easy to quickly pull up something, you know. Now, there is one downfall that I mentioned in my article, and that's when you're working on a local machine, or just working on your website on your computer, you're not required to have an internet connection. Whereas here you would. So if you do a lot of traveling and you're on the plane and you code while you're traveling, that wouldn't be the case. You'd have to connect to a Wi-Fi, which a lot of planes nowadays give you Wi-Fi as well.
What's the name of your company?
My company, Anderson Marketing Group.
And do you do a lot of WordPress customization?
Yes. We pretty much 99% work on WordPress. There's a couple smaller projects that we may just do basic HTML or certain. We have done some little game apps and stuff like that, but for the most part, we just work on WordPress. So there's a ton of really great things about this. You know, I can go on and on, but this tool is to help you get quickly into development, and you're able to collaborate. You have your projects pretty much anywhere you go. I can be on Yusuf's computer and I can pull up C9 and I'm in. I have all my code and everything that I need. So this file tree over here works just like your computer. And what I like about it is you don't have to connect via FTP in order to get into this. I can drag and drop files from my computer right onto this area over here, and it will FTP just by dropping it in. So before we move on to the second tool, does anybody have any further questions about Cloud9?
In that coding there, if you want that somebody else in your team enter certain code that you know, you can type it there and he can use it or she can use it.
Yeah, and I can either, like, this can be used for tutorial purposes. So, you know, just thinking kind of outside the box, if you were training someone how to use WordPress, instead of doing like a Skype or something like that, you could just do it through here where they're watching your screen, and then you can, if there's something that you need to say, you just open up the chat. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. So I will leave that open just in case we want to come back. So the second tool that I mentioned here, this tool is actually a framework, and the next three tools I'm going to talk about are frameworks. And a framework is essentially a bunch of code that someone's letting you use. And that code allows you to quickly get HTML elements or certain CSS styling right out of the box, you just get in there and you start coding. You know, web development has come a long way in the past couple of years, and there's no purpose for any of us to reinvent the wheel. Like, someone out there has probably already created what it is that you're, you know, coding. So people thought about that, and they're like, what are the basic things that we need to get quickly started on a website?
You said the next three probably frameworks also?
Yes, the next three
you
are
don't
gonna,
get mixed up what framework you're using? It's not confusing?
well, you have 3 to choose from, and once you choose which one like works.
So you don't use all 3 of them?
No, I don't use all. I have used all 3 of them, but I only use one based on the project's needs, basically. So, as I said in the article, Twitter Bootstrap is probably the most popular. More developers know Bootstrap, at least in my experience, than some of the other frameworks. And what this gives you is a simple way to jump right into developing using their tools. So if we click on Get Started, you do have the ability to download all of the source code and put it into your website. But of course, CDNs are very popular right now. What a CDN essentially is a place where they're gonna keep all those files, and this is a link back to those files. So you can just copy this line of code right here, this block of code, and paste it into your website, and it's gonna go out and it's gonna grab those files and it's gonna use them from wherever they're being hosted. So you don't have to download them to your computer, put them in the order that you need, all that kind of stuff. You can do that, it's there, but this is a way to quickly get started. And there's 3 things that comes with Twitter Bootstrap. The first is the minified CSS, and then you have another CSS file which is a theme. So that's optional, you don't have to keep that one in there. And then you have the Bootstrap JavaScript. Now what that gives you, if we go into these 3 next tabs right here, we're going to go into CSS. Now you'll see over here on the right you have a list of all the things that they're going to go through. So they provide you with a grid system, they provide you with standardized typography, tables, forms, buttons, ways to handle your images. Again, this is all ways that, you know, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to use code that we know is clean, we know is going to be up to par, up to today's standards. So why create our own grid system? Why create our own buttons? So let's look at a little bit at the grid system.
Yeah, please.
So what this is saying here is you're provided with 4 classes that you can use. One of them being column, COL-XS, which is extra small. You have a small, a medium, and a large. And what you do is you append a number to the end of this out of 12. So we're essentially going to look at this website and we're going to say there are 12 columns across this website right here. And this, I'm sure they're probably using it here. So this right here is probably about 8 or 9 of those grids, or those columns. And then the next 3 to complete the 12 would be this sidebar. So I can almost guarantee that this right here is probably column dash large dash 9, and then this element over here has one that's column dash large dash 3. And then if you put in medium, then you can change it. So maybe you want it to be 5, or you want it to be 6 and 6. And then it automatically on small, you don't have to put an extra small class because Bootstrap automatically knows that you probably want that to be full width at that point. So it'll span the 12 columns. But if you want to override it, and you want to have 2 columns on a phone, then you can have extra small -6.
So I can put 12 column on the 1170 pixels.
Correct, yeah. Large is going
Yeah.
to be anything greater than 1200 pixels. And then this is going to control everything in between 1200 and 992.
Okay.
And then small is going to control everything greater than 768 up to 992. And then the extra small controls everything below 768. So if you have 2 divs, and all you would need to do is add a class of column dash large dash whatever, however many columns out of the 12 that you want the column to be. So that's just one way. Of course, they have great documentation, so you can go through. You can see here, we're going to look at this example. So you can see this div right here is column medium 1. So you're of course going to have 12 columns because there's 12 columns in a grid. This one's 8, the remainder would be 4. So you can quickly get these grids, and as you bring the browser window down, it's going to respond and it's going to change. And then of course you have things like forms. So they have standard styling for forms. So you can just quickly come in here and say, you know what, I need a form on my website. I'm going to copy and paste this right here and I'm going to put it, and you have a form.
On that coding, can you change the color of the font
Of course.
and the language?
Yeah, you can override all that stuff.
Because I have to translate.
Yep. You just have to make sure that you keep the main classes and all that kind of stuff, but you can change out, if you don't want this to say email address, you can have it say whatever you want. Another thing is buttons. So for standard buttons, you use a class of BTN, and then they have standard colors. So you have a primary, a success, an info, a warning, and a danger. And it shows you here, you put BTN and then you do BTN success in order to get this green color. And then you can simply override all of those in your CSS file. So you want to make sure when you're developing that you have the Bootstrap CSS, and then underneath it you have your CSS file in the where you either unqueue it or you put it in the header. You want to, because as the browser is reading your page, it's going to start at the top and it's going to go down to the bottom. So whatever CSS is below Bootstrap will override anything.
Override,
Yeah.
yeah, like an external.
Mm-hmm. So if I wanted danger to be a different color red, then I can go into my CSS file and I can say BTN danger is going to be background color purple or whatever, you know. So again, there's so many things that you can do here in just the CSS. Of course, there's responsive utilities, which help, you know, with embeds and stuff like that. So if you want to make sure that your YouTube videos are responsive in your website, you can use what they've already built out. In the components section, they go a little bit further than that. They have some buttons with drop downs. It does include a nav bar that you can use. And it provides all the code. You can do breadcrumbs, pagination, a jumbotron, which is their
What is that?
their carousel, or I'm sorry, their like header featured image or something like that. And then here's the responsive embed. So you want to make sure that your YouTube or your Vimeo video is responsive. You would use this code here. And then they go one step further by providing you with some JavaScript elements. So when you think of JavaScript, think of things that are moving or popping up or things like that. So let's see. A lot of people use their carousel. They have different actions when a button is clicked, a popover or a tooltip, things like a tab. If you need to have different sections of content, you can quickly pull in their tabs. A modal. See if we can. Yeah, modal is one of these kind of little pop-up things. You can close it. And it doesn't close on the example. That's essentially what a framework is. It gives you a bunch of base code to utilize, and their documentation is really great. They are releasing version 4 very soon. So there's been some really cool chatter about things that hopefully are coming out. Now, this is probably the most popular, but there are others. I use Bootstrap. It's probably not my favorite, but I use it because I know a lot of the other developers that I work with know how to use it, so I can rely on them being able to.
I have been testing a lot of sites from Wordpress.org, the free ones, and 80% of them.
Use Bootstrap. Yeah, because it's just a tool that really gets you quickly into the cool stuff, making things pretty and, you know. So the third tool is going to be Foundation by Zurb. Now Foundation is on version 6 right now, and you're going to find a lot of the same things in here, but I really like Foundation a lot because even from their infancy, they had a lot of advanced features that Bootstrap still doesn't have.
It's a kind of a competition.
Correct. So you'll find a lot of the same things. So I come in here, and here's how they do their button. Now, Twitter Bootstrap used BTN. They just use button. And you can see there's a style differently. You have different colors. By default, they have like kind of circular image buttons, and these are squared. But you pretty much get all of the same CSS that's available in JavaScript. I'm sorry, HTML. But what I really like about their system is some of these plugins that come with it. And I want to touch on the interchange because before, we've always had a problem in development when it comes to images, because image sizes, with Retina display, you want to have a big image, but then you want to have a little bit smaller on a tablet and a little bit smaller file size on a phone. And what the interchange does is, out of the box, I'm able to set up an image that then, as I pull the browser window down, you see how it changed out to medium? So it literally changed the image altogether. So I can have an image that is, let's say, 1900 pixels wide, which is going to be a large file size for my desktop users. But then as I go down, I can switch it out to something that's more manageable, like 900 or 600 or something like that.
Now, is the image stored once on the server and then it resamples on the fly? Or is there multiple instantiations of images?
There's multiple images, but WordPress automatically saves out 3 versions of your images anyways. So when you upload an image to WordPress, it saves it out at its full size. It saves it out at a large size, which is around 1024, if your image was larger than that. And then it has a medium, which I believe is 330, and then you have your thumbnail, which is 150 by 150. So it automatically saves those out.
So it's like for the desktop, for the tablet, and then you have like
Correct.
For the phone.
And they have integrations for interchange into WordPress, so you can set up custom image sizes so that it fits a little bit better. Because WordPress is out of the box, image sizes aren't really the right fit for responsive. So you typically think of anywhere from 480 pixels down is going to be a phone. Anything above that up to 768 is going to be a tablet, even though tablets are growing, in size. And then somewhere above that, up to about 1024, that's going to be kind of like a laptop. And then anything above that, you want to serve a high resolution because it's probably going to be a desktop, and they can handle the internet speed of downloading that image. So you want to set up custom image sizes in WordPress so that their sizes are 768, 480, 1024, and then something that's a lot larger than that. And there are tutorials out there that show you how to incorporate this. But
could you repeat the picture sizes? So 420 for the phone?
Yeah, 420, 768 for a tablet.
420 what?
420, 768. 1024 for a laptop. And then I wouldn't recommend going over
No, because it's coming slow to load.
I wouldn't go over 15 to 1900 pixels for a large screen. But you're supposed to have double the pixels for a retina display. So, excuse me. So if you had an image that was 500, you want to make it 1000 and serve it on a retina. Now, just to keep shrinking this in, it goes down to a small version as well. But I want to see if I can pull up the inspector here.
When you mean Retina, do you mean also because there's Retina displays on iPad and Retina displays on the iPhone?
Yeah.
So it's still double?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You're supposed to. You're able, even with the interchange, you're able to set up. They have a function that's 2 times, so it knows that if it's a Retina capable, it'll serve the 2 times or the double sized image. And then you can have one, if you pull it up on an iPad that's not Retina, then it'll only serve the 768 image.
And if it is there that option for on WordPress for that automatically? For the 2 times?
No, you would have to program that in, and essentially what you have to do is the very first image that you load into WordPress would need to be the full size doubled image, and then you'll set up custom sizes which would automatically save it down as half, and then it would save it down as 768 and 420. Let me see if I can show you how this.
And is it the double rule? Does that apply to 4K screens too?
That I have no idea. I'm a little disappointed that they don't let you see all of it here. Okay, so essentially you have a div and then you have a data interchange, and it says I want to pull on a small phone or on a small screen, I want to pull in small.jpg, and then it goes to the next one. It says medium, I want you to pull in a medium JPEG, and then here's a large. And then you can do other additional for 2x or any other size that you want to use. So that's one of the big things that came with Foundation that kind of set them apart from Bootstrap, because Bootstrap doesn't have anything like that. And then we have things that if you're developing a lot, there are certain issues that you run into and you're like, man, why don't they have a fix for this? And they've done that. Like if you've ever had 3 columns, but those columns don't line up at the bottom. If you work for any client, they're going to be like, well, can't they line up at the bottom? And I'm like, so then you have to do all these workarounds. And so these things offer, Foundation offers this, what they call
Alignment.
equalizer. Yeah, they call it the equalizer, so that all of these columns will always equal the same height. So there's just some extra little things in here that make Foundation just a little bit more special. You guys have any other questions on Foundation? Nope. All right. Let's move on. The next one is something that we use at Anderson Marketing Group to develop. It's probably the most advanced. If you're not developing on a regular basis, or you're not familiar with using the command line, or if you're not familiar with things like task runners, such as Grunt or Gulp, this probably isn't for you right now. But when I first started using this, I had no idea how to use the tools that are inside there. And so I started playing with it. You have Cloud9, pull up your Cloud9, get it installed, and just break it. That's what I always recommend. Like, go in and break it and then try to fix it. And now I know how to use some of these really advanced tools. And that's the only way you're going to learn, is if you get in there and get dirty. So this used to be called Roots, and I want to say about a year ago they decided that Roots was going to be the name of their company, and they were going to change their theme name or their framework to Sage. And so now we have Sage. And there were some differences in this framework from Roots. Roots was using Grunt in order to be to run their tasks, and they switched over to Gulp. Is anyone familiar with task runners? No? Okay. A little bit about task runners. Task runners came about because there are certain things that developers should be doing on a regular basis in order to optimize their files. Nowadays, you really have to have your load time be very quick. So if you have a bunch of CSS files and you have a bunch of JavaScript files, for every one of those, it's a call when the website loads. So if you use Page Insights or GTmetrix or anything like that to kind of test the speed of your website, it will show you this site has 60 resources. That means that it had to look for 60 things and download 60 things. Those 60 things delay your website from showing up because it has to download.
Yeah, you also see on the firewall, you see all these sockets open up.
Yeah. So what you want to do essentially is have one CSS file and one JavaScript file. So that's 2 resources as opposed to 60. But we also don't want to limit developers from being able to separate out their files if they want to, encapsulate certain things. And then on top of that, we have new CSS languages like Less and Sass. And those are, they kind of modeled these new CSS languages after JavaScript, kind of. So you can build functions in your CSS now. You can take variables, like in PHP, you can set a value equal to a variable and then use that variable instead. You can now do that with CSS in Sass or with Less. So how do I use that? Let's say you have a project and you have 3 main colors, and you send that to the client. Then the client's like, you know what, I don't like this color. Let's change it. Well, now you got to go in your files and you got to change that color, find and replace that color everywhere. But if you're using less or Sass, you can say, I want a variable called green, and I want to set it equal to whatever the RGBA or the hex code is. Then when you're coding, you say, I want to use background color variable green. And you do that throughout your process. So then when your client comes back and says, you know what, I don't want this to be green anymore, I want it to be blue. Well, you can go into one file, change that hex code to whatever hex code you want it to, and all those other files will have been using that variable instead of that hard-coded hex code. So that's just a small enhancement that you get with using less or Sass. And I don't want this to be that workshop. So getting back to task runners, so task runners will take all your files, minify them, put them all into one line, and then concatenate them or put them all together, compile them into one file. And then it can also do other things like auto prefix. So we know that certain prior unsupported CSS like transform and transition and text shadow and that kind of stuff, those are things that kind of were released, and so you had to have prefixes like dash WebKit and all that kind of stuff. You had to have those prefixes in front of them in order to make all the browsers recognize them. Well, that takes a lot of extra time for you to have to write all that out. So if I was to just write transform, I can save that. The task runner goes in and it puts all the correct prefixes in front of it, so that's less that work that you have to do. And now with Gulp, you can set up an image folder, and Gulp will automatically optimize those images so that they're web friendly. So it'll take out all the unnecessary metadata that's in an image that's not needed on the computer or on the website, and it takes it all out for you. So it's amazing, and it does incredible things for you so that your website can basically be quicker and lighter and faster than your competitor. Yes, sir.
Task runner, is it like a preprocessor for your scripts?
You can think of it
Nowadays
that
there
way.
was the preprocessor for the C program to compiler.
You can think of it that way because when you write Sass or you write less,
Right.
it's not actual CSS. It has to then, like, you write it out and then it has to be processed into CSS. So Grunt or Gulp will actually take less or Sass, it'll read it, it'll spit it out as regular CSS, then it will minify it, then it will compile them all together.
Okay, I don't want to divert too much, but I want you to open a tab and comment very quickly. Or can you open a new window, a new tab?
Yeah.
And go to, what is it here saying? gruntjs.com. Are you familiar with that?
Yep.
Okay, I just wasn't one. No, it's gruntjs.com. There you go, keep going, there you go.
Yeah.
Is this related to what your task runner activity that you're talking about?
Yes, it is. So Roots used to use Grunt,
Oh, really?
and then when they switched over to Sage, they changed to Gulp, which they're competitors. Just like Bootstrap and Foundation are competitors, Grunt and Gulp are competitors. So it's kind of like your taste of the week, whichever one you
Why
feel.
didn't they were
you know.
competitors?
Yeah. So Gulp, like, I feel like Grunt is a little bit easier to use right off the bat if you're not familiar with task runners. I would use Grunt, and then Gulp is kind of like if you really want to do some advanced task running, then use Gulp. But this Sage framework that I'm talking about, it uses Gulp. But the good thing is when you install it, it automatically has your Gulp file set up, so you don't have to like build a Gulp file. Maybe soon we'll do a day where it's just task runners, and we'll actually show you how they work. and that'd be fun. But anyways, this, the people at Roots, they've done a lot of neat things with WordPress. So they've gone in and they've structured things differently. This one is definitely kind of a learning curve if you're used to working with themes. This one structures the files a lot differently. It uses Sass. But their intention is for you to be able to quickly build out very advanced websites with the most relevant, up-to-date technology, getting all of your files shrunk down and put into one file, and if you're building professional websites, this is the way to go. Any other questions on stage? Right. What's next? All right, so I have the 5th tool is the new version of WordPress, which is currently not available.
It's beta.
It's in beta. So you can download it, but you shouldn't use it on a professional website at this point until it's released.
They will release it, I think that in a week or a week and a half.
Yeah, they're going to release a stable version of it very soon. But the reason I listed this in here is because it's including 2 really major improvements to web and WordPress. The first thing being they are officially including the WP API into core finally. And this, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's a REST API that they've been working on for a really long time. It's been in plugin form for quite a long time. WordPress has continually said, hey, we're going to release this in core in this version, and then they don't. And then they say this version, and they don't. And it's because they're trying to get it right. They're trying to make it work really well. The big thing about the WP API, for those of you who don't work with APIs, an API essentially gives you a port into someone else's website, or an exit port, an entrance or an exit port, whatever you want to call it. And what this is going to allow people to do is you no longer are restricted to building WordPress websites in PHP. And that is opening up a huge, huge resource. Yeah, this one over here, she's excited. Essentially what you'll be doing is you will have the same dashboard that you have on every installation. You can still have your clients or yourself load in all the content, but you can then, instead of having a PHP front-end website, you can build a JavaScript app, or you can build whatever language you want that you speak in coding. You can now build something and then have WordPress be kind of like the place where you go to add in the content. And the way that happens is the API saves everything in a JSON format, which is another formatting that a lot of coding languages understand. So now we can spit that information out to JavaScript or to whatever other language you speak, Python, and you can build a front-end application that pulls in the information, the images, the content, the links, all that stuff into your JavaScript application. So this is opening up the ability for you to have an online app or an app on your phone that is supported by WordPress. You're getting all of your files and you're having your clients go in there and edit all this stuff. They still have that familiar dashboard, but you're not restricted to building out in PHP anymore. And that's going to be officially in core in this version. I have another article in here about the API if you guys are interested in that. Now the second thing I think, which will be a little bit more, a little easier for you guys to understand, is the problem that we've had with images in development. The whole interchange with Foundation giving you the ability to change out images based on, and load in different size images based on what browser window or what device you're using. Now, HTML has finally released a picture, an element that will go on your image tag called source set, and that is going to be available in this new version of WordPress. So they're already supporting the ability for you don't have to use interchange anymore, because the source set essentially lets you do the same thing. So you're going to, in the source set, you're going to say, here are 5 images, and I want you to load image 1 on small, this one on medium, this one on large, this one on retina, the same way that kind of interchange was doing it with JavaScript. Now this is a new element that we get to use in HTML, and WordPress saw it, and they jumped on it, and there's documentation on how to use it. And for anybody who develops and will continue to develop, this is really important. It's kind of the same thing that happened when sites started to go responsive. Now everything has to be responsive. Now all images are going to have to be written out with a source set. It's just the way we're going to have to do it. So it's all something we all have to learn.
And by responsive, you mean?
Being able to change. Yeah, change.
It's device, it's client device aware.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you know about this?
Not much, because I don't use it. I know that there are a lot of theme developers that use the CLI, but
We have it.
We had a class the other day from Percival, one of the guys from Percival did a class on the CLI, all command.
Yeah, command line. That's really something like myself and the company that I work for, we build websites for clients. So we're not mass marketing our plugins or our themes. So we don't use the WordPress CLI. But I can't really speak on it. Sorry.
Okay.
So there are some other things that are being released within the WordPress version 4.4, but those are really the two big things that we want to focus on. Now the last thing we're going to touch on is advanced custom fields, and this one is really exciting for me because I'm really nerdy, and after using this tool, I've been able to create some really awesome sites. It's just, I can't even explain it. Like, I think one of the biggest reasons that people use WordPress in development, or people use WordPress as their content management system, is the dashboard is super easy to understand. It's the same across all your websites for the most part. So people get comfortable being able to quickly go in there and change their content on their own website, and that's really made a big difference for clients. This product allows us as developers to make the dashboard even easier for our clients to use. So what it does is it provides us with metadata or meta fields, so that we set up little areas where, let's say that somebody is creating a new page in their website. We've built them a website. We have different little areas that content lives, it's designed. We can set up these fields that say, okay, give us the title of your new post, put in the content that you want, and then there can be additional fields that have maybe a question that you're asking, or put in a link, or put in a phone number or an email address or something like that.
Perhaps I can help with a metaphor.
Okay.
My impression is that what you do at Anderson is that you essentially build the building, the walls and the foundation, all that sort of stuff for their website. And then they can come in and do the decorations. They can do the decor and paint.
Well, not really, because
Oh, so you don't like that metaphor?
I build the walls and I decorate the walls.
Oh, really?
And then at the end of the day, we give it to the client, and the client is able to fill it with the words and the pictures that they want. Which,
Oh, so they can furnish it.
because, yeah,
Oh,
they can furnish it. So most of the time, our clients are the type that want us to furnish it as well. So they pay us a little bit more, and we put in all the words and the pictures and everything. So at the end of the day, if they want to change something, they can go in and change it, but we've pretty much built their house.
So if they want to rearrange the chairs on the Titanic, they can.
They can, they sure can.
Okay.
Mhm. Without sinking the ship, hopefully. I think the best way to understand this is actually digging in a little bit. I'm trying to think of a good example where I have used this. This product is a lot more about customizing the way that your clients or yourself enters information. Let me go to Bless you.
Salud, señor.
No, I see, I suppose there's a free version and a pro paid version for this.
Yes.
What's the difference between the two?
The free version actually has a lot of fields that you can use out of the box, which is great. But then the pro version gives you some that like knock your socks off. I mean, like it's changed the way that I develop.
I'm not supporting too.
Let me log out of here and.
Is that a license per developer or a pro?
Yes, you can buy. There's just one license that you can get, but it's unlimited websites. I think there's only one.
You can use more than one website.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me give you an example on this. I think this would be the best. So I built a development theme that my company can use to quickly get started on a project. This is using the Sage framework that we talked about. Let me log in real quickly. Okay. So with advanced custom fields, I was able to create this AMG theme settings. So I can create my own options page. That's what they call it, an options page. And then on this options page, I can have these questions, or they're technically called meta fields. Metadata are extra things we can add on to what WordPress doesn't already include. So you have your title, you have your content, you have your categories and your tags. Those are kind of all the data that comes with WordPress, but you can extend those and add your own. So now what I did with this is I thought, okay, one of the hardest things to do in development is to get your menu working the way that you want it to. You may have different styles of menus that you want to use. So in this case, I have a fairly regular menu, a little fancy pull down of a secondary menu, nothing too fancy. But what I can do is I can say, you know what? I actually want to use this right drawer. And when I refresh this, now I have a completely different menu. It opens up from the side. And I was able to build in 5 of these. So right off the bat, we can, with our clients, we can say, hey, you know what? I think for this client, it would be best if we, let's use a full screen navigation. So we switch it out, and now the navigation comes down from the top, and it's completely off screen. That's just one little blip of a way that you can use it.
What is pushing? The next one.
This one, see this is a good example. Thank you for showing me that. So if I choose this full screen pushing navigation, which let me save this and show you what that looks like. Navigation is going to go away completely. Now we have this little button over here. When I click it, pushes everything out of the way and it opens up.
Okay.
So here are some extra fields where we can enter in some information. Well, how do I allow my client or myself easily to enter this information? So I created, using advanced custom fields, I was able to say, if I choose this full screen pushing navigation, open up these extra options. So when we close that, I choose this one. Now I can enter my email address and my phone number, my street address, and Periscope now knows where I live. That's really scary. It offers you all kinds of different options that you can have these little additional fields. I control what the title is. I control what the description is. So when you're writing these, you would think about your client in mind or the person using the website. So you would say, add an email address if you'd like it to appear in the main navigation. Add a phone number to your navigation. Those kind of things. So they enter in these little meta fields, and then that information shows up on the website. So to give you a couple more examples of how this has really helped me build better for my clients. If you've ever built out a blog, you know that, or you have certain elements or certain pages, getting them to order correctly can be a kind of a pain. So if you want, let's say we created a team. We have team members. So we have a tab in the dashboard where it says team members. I can click on that and I can put in Bob, I can put in Joe, I can put in Mary. And then those display out kind of like your blog roll would. You see everyone down the page. Well, the CEO is always going to want to be first. So it can be kind of difficult to make sure that order is the way that you want it. Well, with Advanced Custom Fields, the paid version, it gives you a post object which allows you to choose from team members. And then when I go in and build that page out, I have an option that says choose the team members that you want on this page. I click on it, it shows me the team members. I select the ones that I want. They all list there. I can grab them and drag and drop, move them. They'll all move around as I decide which position I want them in, and then I save it. WordPress has these little, this little sidebar that is the page attributes. Then you choose 0 to whatever number you want. And the lower the number, the higher it's going to be. So if you want number 1, you got to have the 0 on that one. Then you got to go in and you got to put number 2 on the second one, and 3 and 4, and then they'll order the way that you want them to. But then what happens when you hire new people, but those people have to kind of be in a certain position? Then you have to essentially reorder everyone by going in and saying, okay, you can't be 2 anymore. Now you have to be 4. Now you have to be 5, but there's already a 5, so I got to find a place for 5 and put that in 6, and there's already a 6. So this allows the client to come in and move things around. If I go into custom fields, yes, I'd like to get this page. When I set this up, I say, all right, I want to create a field called build a navigation. Here I've put in choose the navigation style, then give me a field of email address, phone number, street address, and city, zip, and state if they choose a specific option from the navigation. And then I'm able to say, I want to create an options page that's equal to something that I've set up already in the functions file called AMG theme settings. So this automatically pulls up in this little tab down here. Other things that I can do is, if there's some extra information that you want people to fill out on their blog, maybe it's some kind of resource or a special image that's going to show up somewhere that you don't want to put in the content editor, pretty much anything you want. I would say, all right, I want this to show up on a post, and then it gives me all the posts that are available, and then I say, okay, I want it to show up on this post format, quote. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to break some stuff. So now I'll go into posts. I'm going to look for the quote post. And now when I come in here, I'm provided with this build a navigation metadata. And so I can say, I want this full screen navigation. Now this doesn't apply to this page, but you can have data that will show up on that page. So you're essentially given custom fields, and when you code that into your website, then you just have an unlimited amount of opportunity to be able to customize this area right here for your clients. I can actually take out the editor, and so your clients would come in here, and let's say they had a survey. You had to have a page that was going to be a survey. You can create custom fields that are, what's your name, what's your phone number, what's this, what's that. And then whenever they fill it out, I have a really great example. Let's say you had a website where you were creating kind of like a membership site. Somebody would sign up. Yes, they have their user information, but then they are designated one page on your website that they can provide their, let's say, their charity information. They're a charity, and they want to talk about what's special about their charity. You can set up these questions like, what's the name of your charity? You know, what's the topic that you guys focus on? What's your business address? What's your email address?
What you want to volunteer for.
Exactly, you want to volunteer. So you can have all of this stuff go away and only have these fields right here that say, what's your name? What's your phone number? What's your address? What's the name of your company? I mean, how much more easy could that be for the person that you've given permission to sign up for your website? Now they have their own page on your website. Let's say it's a directory. It's showing all of the charities here in San Antonio. Well, I want to get on that so that if you find that website, my charity is included in that. You sign up, now you're given a page. But I don't want to have to put in all that information. I want to give you, as the person who signed up, the ability to come on here and fill out your profile. So this would be a way to do that. You're only allowed to see this page. It has all the questions, you fill them out. You can make the questions required. You can make new questions open up based on an answer. It's super powerful. I can go on and on and on about it. My company is super floored at the websites that we're able to provide now because our clients rave about how easy it is to go in and answer some questions, and they get that information populated on the front of the site. So I have a project that I'm working on. I can't divulge who it is, but they needed the ability to, they have case studies, and under those case studies, they needed to be able to choose who is involved in this case study. This case study is about something that they've done in the company. So what are the people, the team members that were included? What are the resources that were included in that? Are there any blog or news posts that they've posted that are related to this? So they have a page when they create a new case study, and they say, I write the case study, and then they choose all the team members that are involved in it. They choose all the resources that are involved. They can grab them and move them around so that they reorder. I mean, it's really, really powerful. You guys have any questions on advanced custom fields? What I love most about them is that their documentation is amazing. When you get used to using it, you'll be coming to this field types area regularly, because this basically says, do you want to, like, these are the choices that would be made in your editor. And so a lot of these relational are only for the paid version, so they're only available to you if you pay for it. You can have a color picker, so if you want to be able to have a dynamic page that has your client has the ability to change the color, you can do that. A date picker, a Google Map, like you were mentioning.
The gallery will be for an album of pictures.
Yep. And so once you know what field type you've chosen to use, then you can click on gallery, and it shows you, usually with a video, as well as here is the code that you would use to spit those images out in the PHP. It's super easy. Thank you guys for coming. It's super easy to be able to really quickly implement those. And they even show you, yeah, you've created a gallery, but let me show you how to set up a slider if you want. So you have a gallery of images that slide through. Super stuff. All right, so I know I said I had 6 resources, but I did put a bonus on here. And
you said there's a free version of this?
there is a free version, yeah.
And all those were on the free version except for the less column?
Let me go back.
Yeah, all that's on the free except for the...
This layout and this relational, those are only in the Pro version. I believe that all of this information is available in the free.
And is there more add-ons to that, or that's it?
You have tutorials.
I don't know. They may have some.
Because I saw somewhere on the website add-ons. So if there's add-ons, there's more to that than that.
Sure, yeah. Let's see.
I'll tell you those.
So these things right here are add-ons that you can purchase individually, but if you get the Pro version, they automatically come with them. Yeah. So these are included, and then the public add-ons are pretty much what are already available, like the date picker. And I guess these are some other things that work with the plugin. And this is a plugin, so you have to download it, and if you get the Pro version, you have an authentication number that you put in.
How much is the Pro version?
Let's take a look.
This is Australian dollars, you have to transfer. Oh no, we were here. Australian dollars, you have to convert.
Yeah, which I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's a one-time $100 payment. I mean, and if you include it in however many sites you do over the year, I mean, it's minimal.
Is there like free updates?
Yeah. As long as you put the code in there that says that you have a pro version, it automatically updates the same way that any of your other plugins do.
I kind of have a policy question.
Okay.
If you're using all these frameworks, you know, they're always changing, they're being updated and whatnot. So you have this constellation of things. You know, your website's kind of like a tree, you know, it's growing and doing things. But if you have some big systemic change, like it freezes or something, all the leaves fall off, you know, how do you modulate that? You know, one of the challenges you have is that suddenly all these little frameworks are essentially picking at your website for money and update time and all that kind of stuff. And so they become a high friction maintenance environment.
Yeah, the ones that I've showed you are all open source, so they won't, you won't have to worry about them like coming back and saying, you know, now only certain features are available for free, now you gotta pay for some. If you use the CDN, it automatically pulls in the most recent version of Bootstrap. So if Bootstrap updates to 4, it automatically updates in your website as well.
Without screwing up the whole data.
Yeah, it won't. If the developers have built it properly, they'll still have like the older stuff in there so that it won't just break. I've been working with it since version 2, and nothing has broken along the way. They usually just kind of add things other than changing things. But the files are fairly small, especially if you use the CDN, so it's not going to decrease your speed.
And is this these frameworks, these included codes, are they coming from the outside? You're pulling them from some other website? Or they're parked on your...
You can have it either way, but the CDN is essentially someone has hosted it for you, and you are just pulling in the information from somewhere else. And the good thing about using a CDN is it's basically...
I'm sorry, you have the advantage. Tell me what CDN means.
CDN is a content delivery system.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's going to say, okay, you're in San Antonio, so I'm going to pull from the version in Dallas where I have
it uses that forward cached area. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
so it won't go to California to pull your files.
Right.
It'll pull it from the closest.
So you see that in the logs when you like use Google. You'll see all this stuff coming out of DFW instead of, and rarely you'll see something will be pulled from San Jose or something.
Did you try Max CDN?
I use Cloudflare.
Cloudflare, yeah, there's the one called Cloudflare.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I use for my website, but I think that Bootstrap is actually using Max CDN.
100 Australian dollars is 72.60 cents US dollars. That meaning it's less than Australian.
Okay.
So it says 100 Australian dollars and it's 72, almost $73 US dollar. Meaning it's not bad.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I technically should go into this next one since we are supported by WP Engine, but all's fair and love and hosting. I really love SiteGround hosting. They are optimized for WordPress and Drupal. Kind of like WP Engine is completely all about WordPress, and they optimize their system so that it works the best for WordPress. They do the same thing. What I like about their service, I used to be with Just Host, which is just like any basic hosting, and I had to switch away from there, and I did a lot of research, and I really liked some of the geeky tools that come along with SiteGround.
They send an email to me, at least, I guess everybody, that tonight they are making the transfer. No, they are updating the system to a different system to go that will be faster. I think they made some place.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I like the service too.
Yeah,
Portable
I
too.
mean,
So what's the difference between regular hosting and cloud hosting? Isn't it all in the cloud?
well, no. With their service, they do have cloud hosting, but theirs is optimized for WordPress. Cloud is kind of like any shared hosting. You're sharing space with other people who are also using that.
Oh, so cloud hosting, you have your own dedicated?
No, that's called a dedicated server. But this is kind of like I don't know. It's like virtual, like I don't know. It's a new system.
Yes.
I have no idea how it was built.
It
but,
doesn't literally mean the cloud.
But
Just, you know.
technically, almost all these services and the software as a service are just you're getting a slice of some machine, and maybe one
Yeah.
chunk of a pizza box inside of a big container somewhere. You don't have any clue where it is, as long as it works the same way.
Yeah, most companies.
Dedicated hosting is almost unheard of unless you have a very special case.
Nowadays, most companies offer cloud, and that's the way things are moving. But I guess it's just faster. But essentially, it's kind of the same concept of putting your files on a
Kind of the
server.
same thing.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. But what I really like about SiteGround is they have some really great tools. They have a really awesome caching plugin that comes with their system. They use Cloudflare CDN, so you can make your website. You can put your website files onto a CDN, which makes things faster. Of course, we were talking about it'll serve your website from the closest server area, so that it doesn't have to travel too far. And the Cloudflare is part of the settings are included in the dashboard of SiteGround, so you don't have to go over to SiteGround and make all your changes. They're all in there, and
You can talk to them at 3 o'clock in the morning.
you sure can. And what their customer service, we personally use Rackspace at Anderson, and their customer service is terrible. Yeah, everybody and Periscope.
Proof.
It's terrible. And
Rackspace.
I literally got on SiteGround chat the other day, and the interface is amazing. They have a picture of the person you're talking to and their name and how to contact them. They have like their own personal email.
Right.
And I mean, I couldn't believe at how friendly this person was and how helpful he was. And I have an article on all about SiteGround and all the benefits of it. If you want to check it out, but a large majority of their chats, the issue is resolved within 8 minutes of you being on the chat. And when I got on chat, it was the first time I was on chat with them, I was like, ooh, I want to see, and it was getting to about 6 minutes, and I was like, this guy has not come back yet, what's happening? And then there he came back, he's like, try your website now, and I clicked on it, and it was working fine, and he's like, okay, great, thanks, is there anything else I can help you with? I mean, it was just super awesome.
Yeah.
Everything is right.
And I haven't called them, but apparently they claim that if you call them, they will answer the phone.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
They're
that's what
very fast on the phone, because I've called before.
Yeah.
He did? Okay.
I
Yeah.
call them and they answer you very quickly. And I call 3 a.m. US and it jumps to Europe.
What are you doing up at 3 a.m.? But anyways, this is a tool that I use because once I get my site on here, I'm able to use their tools. They have a staging environment, which I know WP Engine has as well, but I just love being able to pull my site down, work on it a little bit, and then push it right back up without messing with what the viewers are seeing. And I can quickly get my site really speedy and work in the way that it needs to. So
Speaking of speed,
Yep.
I'm confused about speed. When you're doing the test online, what does, if anything, your internet connection, let's say if I'm at 12 megabytes in my office, somebody else is at 50 download speed. How is it figuring your load speed? You see what I'm saying?
I like to use GT metrics.
So basically, the load speed that's on your site itself. It has nothing got to do with the connection locally.
Yeah, and so like GT metrics is using, I guess, their internet speed. So it doesn't have to do with like your machine that you're on. It's using.
Just like the Google speed test.
Well,
What this SiteGround is changing.
Well, I didn't know what the standard was, if there was a standard for that.
for speed or for the bandwidth.
See, I don't know the difference.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Of course, your site's going to load quicker if someone has like amazing internet
Very
speed.
fast,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, but I think what GT Metrics does is they kind of they have a lot of analytics out there, so they're able to kind of say, here's the average of what people are paying for right now when it comes to this internet speed. So it's probably going to be about this. So I just performed one on my site. It loads in 3.5 seconds. The total page size is 1 meg, and there's 59 requests. And then it comes down and says, here's some things that you could work on. Then on YSlow, I always get a worse score on here, which I don't understand because I have a content delivery network and I use expires headers. But anyways, so these kind of give you some things that you should optimize. I don't understand why page speed says you're doing great and YSlow is like,
But then it shows
this
red lines.
yeah.
Oh, it gives you an A through F. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And what I like about the service is you can download it. So a lot of times, if we have a site that we've built, I'll do GT metrics on it, and I'll get a report, and I'll save it as a PDF. And then when we rebuild it, I'll take that, I'll do another report, and I'll take that to my boss and say, look, I made it better. So.
And that's real important when you're working in a situation because you got to have that before and after. If you don't grade yourself, they have no clue what you did. Why aren't we paying you? You got to show them why.
And of course, there's analytics when it comes to, you know, how well are you performing out there, but this is essentially kind of like your analytics on how well you developed the site, how small you kept things, that kind of stuff. And you want to make sure that your page speed is around 3 seconds. Otherwise, they say people will.
So it also you use Vancouver, Canada is where it actually pulled from.
Yep.
Interesting. And it mimicked Firefox.
Mm-hmm.
So it mined Firefox when it would pull the page.
Yeah. And that changes. Each time you run it, it'll be.
Oh, really? It'll mine something else.
It'll use some other server.
Oh, so it does. So that way you can't be gamed as easily.
Yeah. It's another great tool.
The SiteGround is going tonight from 1 a.m. to 3 hours. Solid state drives, which are 100 of times faster compared to regular hard disk drives. That's what they are going to do for the whole enchilada.
That's great. I'm glad that you read that because now I can see.
Tuesday, November 24, 101. That's meaning tonight at 1 o'clock,
At 1,
1
okay.
a.m.
So if they're.
It will take, in my case, probably will take only an hour, maybe less, because it's like this, but if you have too many.
I only have 2 on there, so.
Between 1 and 6.
So that's it, folks.
Can you have GT metrics heartbeat ping a site? In other words, what I'm asking for is your client forces you to use some particular hosting service.
Mm-hmm.
I slapped myself in the tongue untangle. And so you have to keep that thing up somehow, and you want to be warned. So what do you do to check the pulse and see if it's up?
Well,
I wrote little Python scripts to do that, but that's a real pain in the butt. Would you like to have someone just send you an email report and say, I checked every 5 minutes, and it was down for 12 out of 55 times.
Well, if you have your hosting provider should do that, but if you have some
In
weird,
theory, but
yeah.
sometimes you get these off-brand situations.
I don't know if GT Metrics has like a pro version that you can get, but I do know that they have a WordPress.
Well, I've seen
plugin.
sites that would do it for you, but I just, just kind of curious.
They have a WordPress plugin that you can use.
Well,
I haven't played it.
you can't have a WordPress program that says I'm down, because if it's down, I can't talk.
It's true.
So,
Yeah, you got me on that one. I don't work too much.
well, I
with
just wrote
the-
some really dumb, simple Python scripts that just ran in a cron job, and would just every 5 minutes go ask and say, "Are you up?" Suck a page off and see if it got more than a few thousand bytes. And if I got more than a few thousand bytes, I got the page. I didn't get just junk. Yeah, that's kind of one of those heartbeat kind of things.
Yeah.
I've seen other sites though that do that. Is my site up or something like that? I can't remember. I saw it one time.
I'm sure there's some subscription that you can get for something. But I don't think GT Metrics has.
Not to worry, because I was curious if it was somewhere in there.
But there's another software like GT Metrics that you can use.
Yeah, you can use the one from Google, which is Page Insights. But so those are the 6 tools, with the 7th being SiteGround as the bonus. My site is WP Dev Solutions, and I try to write as I'm on my development journey. I've been a developer for about four years now, 2 professionally, and I learn something every single day, and I do a lot of researching on how do I do this, and throughout that search I've found, like parts in this article over here and parts in this article over here, and I'll find articles that are from like 2012, and I'm like, that probably doesn't even work anymore. So what I try to do is, if I find a solution to something, then I write it down, and I write an article about it so that someone now can get that issue solved. And then of course I just write WordPress tutorials on how to develop WordPress websites. I have a full series, it's a 10-part series on how to build a WordPress theme from scratch.
You have a YouTube channel?
I don't like to be on camera. But I do need to.
Why you're so handsome?
I know. I should share this beauty with the world, but maybe soon. I don't have a YouTube channel, but I do have a lot of other social medias. I prefer to write, so most of my things are in.
PDF.
I'm sorry?
PDF.
I don't have any PDFs, but you can use the. Yeah, you can use the blog, or you can print these if you want.
You have it there in that website?
Yeah.
The tutorials?
Yeah, wpdevsolutions.com.
And I have a tab under the menu where you can go directly to the Build a WordPress Theme tutorial. So if you want to go through those 10, you just go in here, and I have them all listed out.
Wow. Really good.
That's it. Anybody else have any questions?
So, I mean, kind of with what you have there, if I just downloaded WordPress without a theme, then I can start following the list and plugging in that kind of stuff as a test play.
Exactly. I start from having an empty directory, and I go into, you really only need 2 files in order to be considered a theme. You have to have your style.css file with your CSS in it, and then you need to have a template theme, which they consider to be your index.php file, which has your basic HTML structure with your doc type and all that stuff. WordPress will consider you a theme at that point, and you can install it. But of course, you won't have anything at that point because there's really no code in there. And then I move forward and I say, or I talk about, well, we can actually kind of go down a little bit. So I talk about the header file, what's the difference between home, front page, and index, 404, search form, page. Each one of these files is eventually what will build you a theme. And if you go into like the 2015 theme, you'll see a lot of these same files used.
Now, just out of curiosity, why did you feel compelled to document your journey on all this activity?
I was compelled because when I was first learning things, I had just gotten out of school, and I wanted to continue my learning in WordPress development. I would search around for things, and I would find pieces of things, or I'd find articles that were really old that they wouldn't end up working. But eventually I would figure out how to do it, but it would be like from 3 articles that I found on Google. So I would piece those together, and I would write my own article for someone who hopefully had that same issue.
You wrote it for yourself as if you were approaching that project as if you'd never seen it before. What you wanted to know at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I hope to provide, a solution for someone the way I wanted a solution when I couldn't find it. And not only that, like, as I started to write more and more, I wanted to share certain little tips and tricks that I use on a regular basis, some of these tools, how to make your YouTube videos responsive, how to use conditional logic, just kind of as I started to master different areas of development, then I would be like, you know what, I want to write so that someone else can master it like I do.
I guess what surprised me when I started writing a blog was that it helped me remember things I had done. In other words, because sometimes you just solve things, especially if you've been a programmer in the past, you just solve things, and you just go on and you forget it. And the next thing you know, 2 years later, you're back and you think, wait, did I do something like this? This looks familiar. And then you don't remember that you did it until you look back.
There's sometimes where I have little snippets of code that I've blogged about, and I'll be like, oh, hey, I have that on my blog, and I'll just run over there and copy and paste it.
That's where the bad thing. You go back and say, cut and paste.
Yeah. And what's cool about that is there's a bunch of tutorials already out there that are, I think there's one called WP Snippet, and it literally just has little pieces of code that will help you do something. And I've learned a lot from that, so that's why I do what I do, or I try. I try to blog as often as I can, but the paid gig is always keeping me busy. That's it. Feel free to sign up for my newsletter. My newsletter, I don't really put out newsletters other than like to let you know that I've written a new article, and if you're interested in it. So
is your newsletter like we just get a link, or do we get a whole bunch of stuff in the email box?
No, it'll only send out an email to you if I've written a post, and it'll just show you the most recent post that's been posted. I'm not into bombarding you with coupons and weird things that you don't need.
Or some of them that they come twice a week and you don't have time to read it.
Exactly. So feel free to sign up for that, and I have a bunch of other tutorials on there. But I also have a contact form, so if you guys run into any development questions, or if you're reading some of my articles, you can comment at the bottom if you didn't understand something. I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. I try to be a resource so that people can follow along with me as I learn to be an amazing coder. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
Always.
My pleasure.
There's a quick answer to the earlier question. If you just go to Google and type, is my site up? There's a whole bunch of interesting solutions.
There you go. Google's the solution for everything.
That's all.
All right, thank you folks for waiting and watching this awesome presentation by Wayne. you have any question, go ahead and leave it.